Facebook Live event. We're so happy that you've decided to join us, and thank you for caring about the mental wellness of the teens and tweens in your life. My name is Brune, and this is Madison, and we won't be wearing masks during this session, but there is a physical barrier between us. We'd love for tonight to be somewhat interactive and informal, and we'll give you an opportunity to type in the chat if you'd like. We'll also be providing you with useful links and resources to take with you via the chat, so keep your eyes out there. Our hope is that some of the tips provided will give you the tools that you need to help support your teens and tweens' mental wellness. But most of all, we hope you can be empowered to reach out for support if you feel you or your child need help. This is not an easy time, and there are people that want to help. Like I mentioned, my name is Brune. I'm a school health nurse. The majority of the schools that I work with are the elementary schools located in Niagara Falls. The role of the school nurse is often changing and evolving these days. One of our main focuses have been to support schools with school-wide health initiatives. But currently, much of our role is focused on helping schools figure out how to put into place all of the COVID restrictions to help protect the school community from the spread of COVID. I've been so amazed at how hard everyone is working to keep schools a safe place to be. Principals, school staff, custodians, parents, students, seeing everyone work together to do their part has been incredible. But the struggle is real, and the toll of these restrictions are taking on some of our teens and tweens is evident. And maybe that's why you've tuned in today.
Hello everyone, I'm Madison, and I'm also a school nurse like Brune. And the schools I work with spread across different areas of Niagara, but I'm primarily located in St. Catharines, Welland, and Pelham. And Brune gave a great overview of our role as school nurses, and as she said, our role has changed a bit since the pandemic started. However, we work closely with our school community to ensure they're supported, especially this year, and as things have been changing and challenging for schools this year for sure. But we're so proud of all the hard work that's being done in our schools each day to ensure the health and the safety of all Niagara students. So that's us, and we feel very fortunate to have all of you joining us here this evening. So yeah, thank you.
So tonight we're going to use the term kid or child when discussing tweens and teens, because saying tweens and teens over and over again is a bit of a tongue twister. And we recognize that some of you participating tonight are parents, some of you are guardians, some of you are educators. We will be using the term your kids for whatever scenario you may find yourself in. Tonight we'll be giving a broad overview of mental health in children. We'll be drawing your attention to where you can find help if you feel your child needs extra support for their mental well-being. And I don't know about you, but I always seem to say the wrong thing to my kids, or at least in their opinion I do. So tonight we're going to be giving you some tips on how to boost your communication skills with your child. And lastly, in a world where everyone seems to have advice and we're constantly in information overload, we want you to leave with some credible resources that you can refer back to as you help your child on their mental health journey.
Great, and right now we're going to show you guys a video directly from our Niagara teens.
Hi everyone, I'm Arlene.
And my name's Ria.
And we're from React Niagara. React, if you don't know, is a youth-led advocacy group based in the Niagara region that focuses on promoting healthy lifestyles for youth in Niagara.
And so today we're just going to be talking a little bit about COVID-19 and the different struggles that youth go through on a daily basis in terms of the pandemic. So I think for me personally, the biggest changes I've experienced during this time throughout the pandemic have definitely revolved around not being able to go to school and interact with all of my peers, or go to work and see all of my coworkers, or just little interactions like this, which we usually take for granted on a day-to-day basis, prior to this new normal we've kind of created during the pandemic. Like even just holding a door open for a strangers nowadays, maybe the most I get to interact with someone outside of my family for the entire week if I don't go to school for that week. And so all of that just kind of piles together and takes like a huge toll on mental health. And I feel like especially for us because we're in our formative years. So yeah, it's definitely been a big change.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Ria, all you said. Personally, because I'm in grade 12, one thing I really looked forward to throughout the past couple of years was going on those university tours, getting to see everything, which is one thing I've missed out on. However, I think just getting the chance to do virtual tours has somewhat made up for it. And also, like not seeing my friends every day, I've tried prioritizing like going on those Zoom like meetups and all that. So there have been minor adjustments I've had to make. However, I think school, it has all revolved around school mostly.
So for me personally, I'm in a hybrid model. So that means some days I go to school, some days I'm online. And the most challenging thing about this year's school model is kind of a combination of the changes in my social life, which we talked about in the previous question, and then also just kind of like the overall uncertainty of what the future is going to look like, because we're never kind of given a concrete structure. Like, for example, school could be totally in class at one moment, and then they change it back to completely online, and they don't really give us enough time to kind of adjust and process all of these changes. And especially for, I think, Arlene and I, because we are seniors, a lot of the milestones that we're hoping to go through are kind of uncertain at the moment. Like, will we be getting a graduation? Do we get a prom? It's all kind of up in the air. And it doesn't feel like we get much of a heads up. So yeah, it just feels like a lot of uncertainty to no one's fault because this pandemic is always changing. But in terms of virtual learning, I think the biggest issue is being glued to your computer all of the time. So it's physically draining because you're not being as active as you want to be. And then it's also a huge strain on the eyes, I feel like.
For me personally, going back to school, as I am also a hybrid model, we have cohorts. I'm in cohort B personally, so we don't get to go to school every day, and we're also not online every day. So that transition has been a bit difficult, and especially like when we are in school, it feels like because we're consolidating everything and like making it in one day, it feels like the workload has been a bit heavy, but I feel like teachers are doing as much as possible to support us during this period. They've been very lenient on deadlines and all of that, which I wholly appreciate because it's been really nice knowing that teachers are supporting us during this period. And also another point, which has been a bit difficult, has been occasionally seeing those alerts where it's like, oh, someone from your school has contracted COVID. My school personally has prioritized sanitization as much as possible. And I know everyone is doing their best to support this, but it can be intimidating at times, just knowing that that's still occurring at our school. Yeah, so personally, I think one thing our parents could do differently to support our mental wellness during this time is just understand that it's a totally different school environment. Our social lives are completely different, and just leave us the space to adjust to this environment, whether that be like having a quiet environment to do our work, or knowing that sometimes we do need time to just like watch TV, relax, read a book. Also, for students who are also seniors, I would advise parents to know that choosing a university is very difficult, especially during this time, and just letting your child know that you prioritize the post-secondary journey and just being with alongside them and understanding what they're going through during this time.
For sure. And just to piggyback off of what Arlene said, I think it would be really helpful if parents could show like some understanding and a little bit more freedom to make some mistakes during this time, because none of us really know how to deal with all of this change right now. So allowing us to get frustrated sometimes and understanding that it's just coming from a place of like fear and having a comforting support system would be super helpful, I feel like. And then also just holding your kids accountable and reminding them to take care of themselves, because it's so easy to forget. Like for me during the pandemic, I found myself sleeping in a lot, which I don't usually do. And so I would hit snooze on my alarm more times than I ever would before. And like this change in kind of my routine was something that was becoming detrimental to me. So what my mom does now is like if I'm hitting snooze on my alarm, she'll give me a call and she'll just be like, Ria, wake up, like it's time to get to school or it's time to start learning. So yeah, just holding someone accountable and helping to reinforce the daily routine is super helpful. So our team, React Niagara, has an Instagram page where we post a lot of helpful tips for teens going through the pandemic. And we also have a link tree in our bio, which has a whole bunch of access to resources. So it's definitely a really beneficial resource for you guys.
Additionally, Niagara Region Public Health has so many different resources on their Service for Youth Guide, which you can find using the link that should be down below. It has crisis resources, counseling resources, so many different resources. Just click the link. Thank you so much, Niagara parents, for having us.
And if you have any more further questions, you can shoot us a DM on our Instagram or our email.
Thank you, Ria and Arlene, for the insight. Public Health Ontario has summarized some of the effects that COVID has had on our teens, so we'll discuss those now.
Yeah, so according to Public Health Ontario, the impact of COVID-19, including school closures, can influence children and adolescents both physically and mentally. And school closures have resulted in various challenges and negative impacts. And as many of you may already know, some common affected physical areas are reduced movement behaviors and unbalanced nutrition. So we've been seeing decreased physical activity, as many of the extracurricular and organized sports have not been currently running. We've seen increased screen time and sedentary behavior. For example, with school being offered virtually, we can see this especially happening. We've also noticed increased sleep time and increased food intake. And it's important to note too that it's just not the amount of food that's increased, but it's also an physical health effects that we've been noticing, but there's also many mental health effects as well.
Health challenges that have been reported by parents and children include an increase in feeling depressed, feeling anxious, difficulty concentrating, boredom, irritability, difficulties following routines, especially since routines are always changing and fluctuating.
Difficulty managing their feelings and having self-control. And we know that the physical effects of COVID-19 that Madison talked
about directly impact this list here. If a person isn't getting exercise or the energy they need from nutritious foods, it will directly impact their mood. And when experiencing poor mood, a person may be less motivated to eat nutritious foods and exercise, so it becomes a cycle. And kids need help breaking this cycle. So some suggestions may be getting active with your child. Options could include playing one-on-one basketball, going for a hike, practice some yoga together, have a silly dance party, sign up for a virtual exercise class together, or if you don't have time,
they want to join their friends virtually for an exercise class. And when it comes to eating nutritious foods, a suggestion may be having kids help in the kitchen. This can empower them to make healthier food choices and be more excited about the foods that they've helped make. And let's be honest, who couldn't use an extra set of hands when it comes to meal prep?
Yeah, and you may be wondering, what should we be looking for? With the school closures and provincial lockdowns and just being in a pandemic in general, it can be very difficult to mentally and physically adjust to. So it's important to be aware of your child's mental health during these times. And children's mental health needs the same professional attention as any physical health needs required. So, and also Children's Mental Health Ontario tells us that more than 500,000 children and youth in Ontario,
and it kind of breaks down to 1 in 5 have mental health concerns. And you may be wondering, well, how can I tell if my teen's mental health has changed, or what should I be looking for? So we've compiled a list of changes that may be exhibited by a child who is struggling with their mental health. You may see a change in behavior, appetite, or mood, notice some physical symptoms like stomach aches and headaches. You may see some low energy, maybe they're not sleeping well. You can see a major change in their schoolwork, their focus, and their performance. And they may be missing some school time too, being not able to focus or remember things. And you may also notice too that they're not wanting to spend time with their friends and their family. And we know since the pandemic, we're not spending time like we would pre-COVID with our family and friends, but maybe if they're FaceTiming or messaging on social media prior to or during the pandemic, and now they're not, so maybe that's a change. And are they withdrawing socially? And you may also notice that they don't want to do the things that they usually do. So these are some things to be aware of.
So have you noticed any changes in your tweens or teens since the pandemic started? Feel free to add in the chat. And just know whatever the changes that you've seen in your child, know that you're not alone. And please know that it's okay to reach out for help. Some reports show that kids have been eating a lot more, as Madison mentioned, and it's reported that 22% of parents reported their children ate more compared to before quarantine or the lockdown period. Studies have found that the number of meals eaten per day has increased significantly since the pandemic started, and these foods that we're intaking more of include potato chips, red meat, and sugary drinks. What have you noticed your kids snacking on?
Feel free to keep using the chat as we go throughout the presentation. We'll be sure to keep our eye on it. So maybe wondering, how to talk to your teen or tween about mental health. It may not seem second nature. And if your child, if they get a cut or a scrape, we know that kind of the general rule of thumb is to clean it and put a Band-Aid on there. But what about when it comes to their mental health? And that may not come as second nature for some of us. And as we've already discussed, mental health and physical health are equally important for your child's overall well-being. So how can we better support their mental wellness, especially now with this added layer of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? So Dr. Feller, Niagara Region Public Health Associate Medical Officer of Health, has looked into this and has recommended some great tips to foster youth mental health during COVID-19. Dr. Feller has been an awesome advocate for the health and mental wellness in Niagara during the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. So in addition to Dr. Feller's great tips, the Positive Parenting Program is another great resource that here at the region we like to support our parents with. And the program has also developed strategies to talk to youth and about their mental health during COVID. And we may have a question coming in here.
Okay, so we have a question that says, do you have any tips to help reduce teens' screen time? And that's a great question. We know that kids these days have to spend a lot of time on screens for schoolwork and such. So it's important to focus, more on how to improve the quality of their screen time. It's hard to deny them the screens that they need to be able to finish their schoolwork, stay connected to friends. And so just ensuring that the time they are spending on screens is stuff that's encouraging them. So hanging out with friends would be a great option. If they are going to be gaming, but it means that they're going to be connecting with friends in that way, then maybe that's not that bad.
Yeah, we have a great comment from Sandra. It says, we get outside to hike or bike or ride with our team, which helps greatly with overall sense of well-being and to get off screens. Yeah, that's a great way. Getting outside, especially today, it was so nice out today, spending time outside Wow, what a great blessing to have such nice weather. Yeah, thanks for sharing, you guys.
Yeah, and that's a great reminder too that, you know, we as parents and caregivers, we play a big role in helping to break that cycle. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the slides to come.
Yeah. So you've compiled a list kind of to help promote mental wellness in your teens and tweens, and these strategies are kind of twofold, you know, as they can be applied to any supportive conversation between a parent and child to support their mental health, but now during COVID, they become even more important and applicable. So now we're going to talk about each of these strategies individually and how they can be used, especially now.
So the first strategy, the first reminder is to listen. Kids often want to talk to their parents about their concerns, but sometimes the clues they give that they're looking to talk are not super obvious, or maybe they come at a time where you, as the adult, are busy with something. If you're sensing that your child has something on their mind, but you don't have time in that very moment to listen, set a time together where you will talk in the near future, and set that time with them together at a mutually agreed upon time. Or, for example, if you're both either working and learning from home, carve out like a break time together where you can connect regularly and have that time to chat. Making eye contact, pausing what you're doing, getting to their level, unless of course they're taller than you, are all very important visual cues to show your child that you're listening and you're engaged. We're so used to multitasking, but really just making that effort to pause what we're doing speaks volumes to children. Try to avoid telling them how they should feel. We often want to fix the problem, right? So we'll say, oh, you shouldn't, that's silly, you shouldn't be scared about that, or whatever the situation may be. But let them know that it's okay to feel the way they're feeling, even if those feelings make you uncomfortable. And like I said, we're often quick to try to fix the problem, but listening isn't about fixing, it's about listening and acknowledging how they feel. So being patient and understanding is a great place to start. Sometimes it's helpful to think back to when you were their age and the things that worried you. Looking back, those things may seem trivial now, but at the time felt really, really important and like a big deal. And so putting yourself in their shoes is helpful.
And the next strategy that we have is reassurance. So reassure your child that you are there to support them, right? Let them know you're their parent and that you're doing everything you can to keep them safe. And this may look different depending on the situation, but regardless, let them know that you care and that you're willing to help support them. Sometimes this could be simply as having a conversation with them, letting them know that you're there and reminding them that you want to support them. That way, if a situation were to come up, they would know that they can come to you for support. And I know personally growing up that I was always so appreciative of the people in my life constantly telling me that they cared about me and that they truly were there to support me. That way, when a situation would come up or arise, I knew where I would go for support. And in these difficult situations, we can often feel, like we're the only one in the world that's going through this, and it can feel very isolating, and teens and tweens can especially feel this way. So simple reassurance can actually go a long way.
The next tip is update with age-appropriate information. So it's important to be truthful in answering your teens and tweens questions. If you don't know the answer, it's okay to say that too. Find out how much your child knows about the issue before you answer the question to help you keep it age-appropriate. Keep answers simple, honest, and age-appropriate. Get information from trusted sources. It's important to answer any of their questions and correct any misinformation that they may have heard. Sometimes it's helpful to find out where they heard or saw the information, and then gently guiding them to resources that provide up-to-date and correct information is a really helpful step. For COVID information, for example, we'd like to highlight the Niagara Region website. It's updated daily with information related to COVID and how it relates to Niagara. and a really great resource, lots of excellent information there, so do check it out.
And our next strategy would be to stay positive and take notice of the behavior you like. So use praise and give positive attention to the behavior that you like to see in your teen or tween. Seems like we have another question that's coming in here. Okay, from Sandra.
Yes, thank you, Sandra. She says, my daughter is thriving in remote learning, as are her friends, and on occasion they host virtual movie socials and video chat to keep in touch. Checking in matters. And that is such a great tip, Sandra. I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love those virtual movie apps that you kind of download on your browser, and you can have virtual movie nights together. So that's great. We were also saying, yeah, staying positive, and youth are getting a lot of direction right now, throwing at them with the restrictions and school regulations, and they might feel discouraged by this. But take the time to encourage them where they're at. And it's also really important to exemplify acceptance of uncertainty and the restrictions during COVID. So teaching your child to accept that sometimes you may not always have all the answers, but you can find them from credible sources, like Brune was mentioning, and teaching them that regardless if they feel the restrictions are unfair or unjust, they ultimately are there to protect them and others. And finally, focusing on the positives. So with so much negativity out there, what is something positive to focus on? What is something to be thankful for? This could be increased family quality time that a lot of us are getting, that maybe we haven't gotten before the pandemic started. So, and sometimes it's difficult to focus on the positive, for sure, acknowledging that, but this could be an opportunity to get creative. How can you cope and stay positive? Maybe this means reaching out and connecting with extended family virtually, or to do a family games night or something, or like Sandra mentioned, connecting with friends to have virtual Netflix parties or something like that. It's super fun. I know I've tried that with my friends and it's been awesome. And so think about what your teen or tween may enjoy. And if you don't know, sometimes it just may be simple enough to ask them. It might surprise you what creative things they can come up themselves.
So being a role model is really important as well, and I know we're all super exhausted from all the COVID measures and restrictions that are in place, and it's especially hard if maybe we disagree with friends and family about some of the restrictions and maybe follow them more strictly than others. But we know the measures work, and it's so important to role model to our kids. It's fine to tell them that you're getting tired of the restrictions, but it's important to stay positive about how well the restrictions are working and that they're worth it. It's always important to give frequent reminders about washing your hands, not touching your face, making sure to wash your hands after you've touched your mask, and physical distancing. And then helping yourself. I sometimes struggle when I hear people tell me that I need to take care of myself. Like, what does that even mean, right? And unfortunately, like for everyone, it actually means something different. And feel free to add in the chat what this means to you. I'd love to hear. But I could give you suggestions such as mindfulness, exercise, meal planning to help you keep on track with healthy food choices, getting enough sleep. These are all things that may be helpful. But helping yourself often starts by recognizing how you're feeling and then determining how you got there. And this isn't easy, and there's no quick fix. If you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, has something triggered you? Are you having trouble getting enough sleep at night, or maybe you're struggling to sleep through the night? What's impacting your sleep or the lack thereof? And unpacking all this can take time, and it can maybe be overwhelming depending on where you're at. And it's okay to reach out for professional help if you find that this would be something worth unpacking with a professional. We do want to draw your attention again, and we'll put it in the chat, the link to the Triple P, which is also known as Positive Parenting Program. It's an accredited, evidence-based program that gives parents tools to customize to their family's needs. And check out this great resource. We've taken some of these tips tonight from this resource, so dive deeper, check out the website for lots of great information.
Yeah, that's great. And if you're finding your teen needs some extra support, remind them that they do have support all around them, but sometimes it's just a matter of where do I go to look for it. So, for example, each school has a school nurse. Like Bruno and I, school health nurses can provide private one-on-one support with, sexual health and relationships, substance misuse, addiction and mental health, stress and coping skills, personal health concerns. So students and parents can simply call or text the school nurse affiliated with their school. And right now we're showing Nurse Tina, Joanne, and Ashley are awesome team members. They're amazing school nurses and they're willing to be there to help support your student. And in addition, schools often have social workers and resource teachers that are there to help support the students as well. And resource teachers are great too, as they can help get your student organized, or if they feel they need help managing their schoolwork. There's always someone in the school that they can connect to, so you can reach out to your school nurse or school staff to help get you connected and help get your student connected as well. And as our lovely students mentioned already in their video at the beginning of the presentation, we have the Services for Youth Guide. So it's an online, one-stop shop resource for all of the supports that are available in our community. So it can link you or your child to a variety of local supports and services. And I believe there's going to be a link in the chat for you guys, and it should be there for you. And for example, one of the resources that can be found on the Services for Youth Guide is the Kids Help Phone. So this is a Canadian support service, and it's available 24/7 for youth who are in need of immediate or any additional mental health support. They offer professional counseling, information, and referral services, and it's offered in both French and English. And it's a service to provide youth, and they can use it even if they just feel like they need to talk to someone. And you can access the services via text or telephone or live chat or even Facebook Messenger. So it's super easy to access. And it's important to note too that Kids Help Phone is a confidential service, so you can feel comfortable when speaking to a counselor. Another great example located on the Services for Youth page is the Distress Center Niagara. And this can be used for immediate help 24 hours a day as well, and it's great that there are specific contact numbers depending on the area you live within Niagara, so you know you were getting the support right where you live. And we're also going to mention too Passstone Mental Health. So this is a great resource. It's also located on Services for Youth, and it can be found on there, and it's an accredited provider in Niagara that specializes in youth mental health services. They offer a broad spectrum of accessible services that consider each child's social, emotional, psychological, and educational well-being. They too have a crisis support line, so it is a 24-hour service providing immediate counseling via telephone. And these services encompass, clinical support, crisis intervention, and they also can link you to a variety of other community services. But what makes this service especially unique right now is the walk-in. So youth can call to book an appointment the same day or in advance for in-person support right now. Sometimes that's hard to come by, but Passstone is doing that. But if they don't feel like they want to go in person, that's okay too. They're also offering virtual video counseling as well.
And I'd like to draw your attention as well to the School Mental Health Ontario website. It's a credible website that provides parents and families with information on supporting children and their mental health. And it is jam-packed with info, so check it out. It's really helpful. It is catered towards assisting students in caring for their mental health, seeking help if they have issues or concerns, and maintaining a sense of hope and identity during the challenging moments. And then lastly, we want to draw your attention to Niagara Parents. And if you have any follow-up questions after tonight's session, do reach out. It's kind of like a 211 for parenting in Niagara. You can speak directly with the public health nurse via phone, chat, Facebook, or email about any concerns from ages prenatal to 18 years of age, and the nurse would be happy to help connect you with the help you need.
Yeah, that kind of sums up our conversation today, but I also want to remind everyone that all the links and the resources that we kind of mentioned throughout our presentation, they can be found in the description section of the event here on Facebook Live. They can also be saved in the chat. So if you are watching this as a recorded version, you can find the links and the resources in the description or in the chat. Yeah, this kind of concludes our time, and we're really thankful for everyone who's joined us this evening, spending time with us, and yeah, we're really great to have the opportunity to talk to you today. So thank you again for joining us. We'll look now to see too if there's any other comments or if anyone wants to mention anything in the chat. We'd love to hear from you as well. So we'll keep our eye out on that.
So we've got a question. It says, where can I find my child's school health nurse? That's a great question. Like Madison mentioned, every school has a dedicated school nurse affiliated with it. And it would depend on if you are in a high school or in an elementary school. The high school nurses that are catering to students who need the supports listed would be Dina, Joanne, or Ashley, and you can contact the school staff and they would be able to forward their information to you, or you can go on the website and email Healthy Schools directly. And in terms of elementary schools, there's many of us, and again, you can reach out to your school principal to find out who the nurse is, and we'd be happy to connect with you over phone or email. Are school nurses available outside of school hours? So our day is, it starts in and around 7:30 or 8 o'clock. That's when some of the nurses are starting to answer their phones and emails. And we are available typically until about 4:30 during, the school days. And
Yeah, and if they need something outside of those hours, they can always leave a message, and our nurses are great at getting in touch with them and following up with them as well. Yeah, it's a great question.
yeah, and actually I'm just thinking, if you contact Niagara Parent, they would also be able to help you find out who the nurse is affiliated with your school.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions or comments, I think that kind of wraps up our talk here today. Thank you again for joining us, and we had a great time talking with everyone. And yeah, everyone have a great rest of your night.